Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Toledo, February 28th meeting, and welcome to guests. Presenter, I believe, is going to be remote, but we're glad to have you all here. 20 days till spring. Keep counting. Sadly, one of our longtime members, John Davies, passed away recently. I know a lot of you know John. He was a member here for over 40 years, and his wife Mari is still a member here. He was a Paul Harris Fellow, spent a lot of time on the program committee, and he was always active, and I know every time I saw him, it was always a very warm hello and some kind words. So can we take a minute to remember John Davies? Let's also remember Mari. Keep her in your prayers too. I would like to invite Mike George up to deliver a reflection, and past President Rick Hartley, you might as well head on up this way too, because you're next.
Let us pray. We thank you, God, for giving us 4 seasons. We thank you for the spring, reminding us of rebirth and new life. We thank you for the summer with its lush greenery and golden sunshine. We thank you for the fall with its leaves ablaze and frosty fields. And we thank you for the winter, cold and white with snow. Each season makes us remember your plan, and that despite all our efforts, the seasons will still turn. We appreciate the glory of all our natural abundance in Northwest Ohio. We thank you, God, for the Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge staff as they protect and preserve your creation for generations to come. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Rick. And thank you for our sponsor this month, Impact Solutions. And where is the man responsible for that? Murph, I know you're out there. There he is. Thanks, Murph. Do we have any visiting Rotarians or any guests here today? If whoever's here with them, please come to the mic, the floor mic. No guests, no visitors? Okay. If you're on Zoom and you're a guest or a visitor, welcome. I would next like Brad Delventhal to please come up and welcome new member Matt Arnold. So if you both come on up.
Yeah, I want the big guy to come next.
I'll look too short.
I have my center here, basketball player. It's an honor to introduce Matt Arnold, not only as a colleague, but a good friend of mine. Matt works at Rudolph Libby. He's been recently promoted to Vice President of Pre-Construction Services. Matt graduated from Clay High School and, is that right, Matt? What year? 89, something. And also graduated from the University of Toledo in Civil Engineering in 94. He received a co-op position at Rudolph Libby in 93 and has been there ever since. So Matt's a long-time employee at Rudolph Libby for close to 30 years. Matt lives in Perrysburg, married to Wendy for over 25 years. They have 2 children, Ryan and Kaylee. Ryan recently graduated from Ohio State University and lives in Caton. And Kaylee attends BGSU. Matt loves, he's an awesome guy, big-time family man. loves boating, fishing, and spends a lot of his time this summers at the island. So I'd like to welcome Matt to Toledo Rotary. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brad, and warm welcome, Matt. Hope you attend meetings as often as you can and join a committee. We'll go over that. Next, I would like Doug Neckers to please come to the floor, Mike. He's going to make a quick announcement about the Ukraine.
Perhaps many of you don't know that we at Bowling Green imported a number of former Soviet students in our Center for Photochemical Sciences. And so we have very direct connect with the Ukraine, including one who's spoken here, Alex Majoritsky, who is now the president of what became what was my company originally, Spectre Group, and it's now Formlabs Ohio. I'm doing what we can to support these people at this stage. Their families are being displaced, and in Alex's case, his brother's been moved west. But we have some things that we're going to be doing shortly, and you'll be hearing about those. So keep these families in your prayers and in your thoughts. It's a tough time, and we need to stand up for those things that Americans stand for as this thing progresses. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Doug. Maria, would you like to come on up here? Or is Scott, are you here? Maria? No, Scott's going to take care of it. Well, Scott, come on out. No, you can come up here. It's nice up here.
So we wanted to announce that the district 6600 has a new kind of a membership development campaign going, and they're calling it Each One Bring One. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of the one you'll remember, the Power One that we did, Shireen did a few years ago, and it's very similar, right? So the idea is for an existing member to bring someone who's not in the club to an event. It could be a lunch meeting, but it could be also one of our outside events, you know, a community service project. It could be just a committee meeting or something of that sort. And then what the district is doing is they're having everyone write these down, right? When a member brings someone to something, write it down, and at the end of the month, they have a prize. And the prize is that they will take $100 from their foundation or some foundation they have, and they'll donate it to the members, 501c3 of their choice. And so that's kind of what they're doing, is the incentive for people to start developing membership a little bit and also get more people out and about. You know, I think as COVID is kind of allowing us to reach out a little bit more and do things, I think this is a great time for the district to start this campaign. I'll do a small plug, though, also for one of our events. April 9th will be the food pack, and so that's going to be a great time, too, to maybe bring somebody new to Rotary and introduce them. So appreciate it. Thanks, and keep that in mind.
Thank you, Scott. One of my announcements was going to be the food pack, so who remembers the date? All right. They're really fun. I don't know if anyone here has been, but you accomplish a lot. It's really good teamwork, and you might have kids 7 years old up to somebody 90 years old, so it's really a fun event. And that's going to be at St. John's High School. We are going to start resuming some member highlights in the spoke. So if anybody wants to recommend a member that we should highlight, or if you would like to be highlighted, then please get in touch with Jackie, and she will put something together with you. Also, speaking of Jackie, she has relocated to the Bell Building at the corner of Erie and Madison, and it's a really nice office, and if you want to go see her, she'll probably have the door locked, but if you not, she'll come and let you in. I recommended she have the door locked. All right. District Conference is coming up. Geneva on the Lake, May 13th through 15th. I recommend trying to go. I've been to several of them, and they're a good time, and you actually get to meet some people from throughout the district. Our district is, I think, 63 clubs, so we are the largest, but it's pretty cool to see the rest of the district and see what everybody else is doing. Another district thing going on, DG Mary asked me to mention that they are still running the raffle for the Mustang, the e-vehicle. The drawing is at the district conference, and you can buy, I don't know if it has on the slide, you can buy a ticket for $100, you can buy 3 for $200, or you can buy, I believe, $300 or $500 buys you 7, something like that. It's a better deal. The Rotary International Conference is coming up in Houston, June 4th to 8th. I've been to a couple of those. That's even drivable if you want to get to Houston that way. Not sure how it's going to be. It's really, I think, the first one back in person. I know they're trying to get at least 60 to 80 from our district to go down. We had way over that in Toronto, but that was much closer, and it was pre-COVID. So, but I do encourage you to go. The last thing I have to announce is the Women's Social. It's going to be March 24th at the Urban Pine Winery, and Donna Bogan over here, our board member, is organizing that for us. So look for that, all you women. She told me I couldn't come. What do I say? I told her I was growing my hair out again. All right. Rob Crane, would you please come up and introduce today's program?
My pleasure to welcome virtually my friend and colleague, Jason Lewis, to speak with us today. Jason is the Refuge Manager at the Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge over on the lakeshore. And he manages about 11,000 acres comprised of Ottawa, Cedar Point, and Little Sister Island. Last year, the Friends of the Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge received a grant from the Toledo Rotary for their fox addition to the refuge. And Jason's going to fill us in a little bit on everything that's going out there and also the fox addition and the use of the Rotary funds. He is not able to join us in person. As a federal employee, he has to join virtually, so we'll all welcome Jason.
Well, thank you, Rob. Wonderful for that wonderful introduction. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm having some feedback. We good? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you good.
Okay, thank you so much. I know, can I share my screen? I know it went off, so let me see if I can.
Yes, go ahead.
Let me see if this works here. Can you see that okay?
Yes, I can see it.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. Well, sorry about this. I do apologize for not being able to be there in person. I would much rather be there amongst all of you and networking and fellowshipping, and as these presentations provide those opportunities. Again, I do want to thank Rob for that wonderful introduction and his partnership on the various conservation programs that we've worked with over the last few years. So I'm going to get right into my presentation. So again, my name is Jason Lewis. If you have any desire to reach out to me, if you have some thoughts, ideas on the management, on the program that I'm giving today, please feel free to shoot me an email, give me a call on my mobile, shoot me a text. I'd love to hear from you, hear your thoughts as we try to really connect into the community and make sure that we're serving the American people to the best of our ability. So let's see here. Can I advance the slide? All right. So the mission of the United States Fish and Wildlife Service is working with others to conserve, protect, enhance fish, wildlife, plants, and their habitats for the continuing benefit of the American people. I always like to pull our mission up here because it is working with others. Much like the Rotary, you're working with others in the community to improve the community, to make the community a better place for all of us. We too work within our community, and we work to benefit the American people. So public recreation is an important part of our mission. So the National Wildlife Refuge System is a national network of lands. It's administered by the United States Fish and Wildlife Service. We have 567 refuges and 38 wetland management districts that encompass 850 million acres of land and water from the Caribbean to the remote Pacific. There is one refuge in every state, and Ottawa is the only refuge in Ohio. The visitation to the National Wildlife Refuge System was 65 million visitors or visits in 2021. And those visitors came out to participate in what we classify as our 6 priority public uses: hunting, fishing, wildlife observation, wildlife photography, environmental education, and interpretation. And so we're a sister agency to the National Park Service. Of course, the National Park Service has nearly 4 times as many visitors as we have, but we have nearly 8 times as much land. So the economic contributions of the refuge system, the refuge system's recreation to communities, I thought this might be very relevant to the Rotary, just so that we can better understand how nature tourism is able to improve the communities in which refuges are established. So 53.6 million visitors. When the Banking on Nature was done in 2017, that's what our visitation was, 53.6. We're actually at 65 million, as I indicated. That's 3.2 billion in economic output for trip-related recreational spending, 41,000 jobs, 1.1 billion in employment income, 229 million in tax revenue for local, county, and state. And for every dollar that Congress appropriates to the National Wildlife Refuge System, it generates $4.87 to the local economies. And so to give you a kind of a perspective on Ottawa, our budget here is about $1.2 million. That pays for all of our staff, and we have a staff of 10 to 14, and gives us about $250,000 to $300,000 in fixed and discretionary cost spending, which we then turn that around and invest that back into the community, doing various kinds of services, going to hardware stores, making improvements, lots of investment in local businesses with those resources. So in 2018, we contracted with Ohio State University to do a more localized economic impact analysis. This is the National Wildlife Refuge Visitor Survey that was done in 2018. It was contracted again with Ohio State University. It's a system-wide survey that's done across the country. Different refuges are chosen. It happens every 5 years. At Ottawa, we surveyed in 18 in both May and in October, trying to identify those 2 different user groups, mainly the non-consumptive users in the spring, which are the bird watchers that come out. As we all know, it's a very important stopover area for migratory birds in the spring and even the fall, but more so in the spring. That's when we get a lot of our bird watchers here. And then in October, we're dealing with a lot of hunters and providing opportunities for those hunters. We had 377 visitors that agreed to participate with a 72% survey response rate. So here's the economic impact of Ottawa on our local communities. So if you can see here to the left of the graph, this is dollars per person per day. We're looking at local visitors, non-local visitors, and then of course all of the visitors combined, and looking at various lodging, food, drink, transportation, retail, and guided tours, which at that time there were no guided tours happening. So our local visitors contribute about $58 per person per day during their visit. Of course, this is all self-report. They've reported these numbers to us as what they have spent or they spend when they come to the area or visit the area. Of course, the non-local visitors spend more. They're staying in lodging. They're spending more time with food, and their transportation costs are more, as we can expect. So if you extrapolate this based on our visitation, which we actually broke our visitation record in 2020, we had 361,000 visits in 2020. You can see that Ottawa does have quite a bit of an impact on our local economy and is a vital resource to supporting local businesses. So what do people come to do? We're currently sitting at just under 11,000 acres. I wanted, at the time that I sent out that bio, we were very close to closing on 2 properties that was going to put us at just over 11,000. And so we're still planning on closing on those properties, just had some delays, COVID-related delays, unfortunately, with some of the individuals that we're working with. So we're hoping that they have a speedy recovery and we're able to get those properties closed, and then we will, in fact, be at or above 11,000 acres. So we have 10 full-time employees and 4 term employees. Those full-time employees are wildlife biologists, maintenance staff, law enforcement. We have managers like myself. I have an assistant manager. We have office managers that manage budgets and work with our local businesses so that we can do contracts and credit card procurements within the community. We have over $200 million in real property assets. So 70 miles of roads and dikes and many water control structures, what we'll talk about in a minute. Again, our annual visitation was just right around 360,000 visits. We're the 7th most visited refuge in the Midwest. And the big 6 are the primary public uses that visitors come to enjoy, which again is hunting, fishing, wildlife observation, wildlife photography, environmental education, and interpretation. You know, bird watching, as I indicated, was a big part of our visitation in the spring. We helped to host the biggest week in American birding. Endangered species, people come out to see endangered species. This is the eastern prairie fringed orchid. We have some of the largest populations of this orchid in the state of Ohio. And as I indicated, we do have a land acquisition program, and we are actively acquiring land. So this gray area here, this gray line right here, if you can see my pointer, that's our limited acquisition boundary. As you can see, this is Fremont right here. So you got Sandusky. So this is everything inside this is technically within our acquisition boundary. So Congress has approved us to acquire land within that area. We primarily focus our acquisition, as you know, near the near shore area. And we have these 3 focal areas, the Toussaint River here, the Little Portage, and the Crane Creek focal areas. So those are the areas where we try to concentrate our acquisition. And we also have an unlimited acquisition authority that's been congressionally legislated, that is the green area. You can see a lot of the blue that you see, that's our existing lands. So we have unlimited acquisition authority to acquire land in the green as well out on the islands. We do not currently have any acquisitions on the islands. So breaking it down from the refuge complex, as Rob mentioned, it's Ottawa, Cedar Point, and West Sister Island National Wildlife Refuges. Ottawa is about 6,600 acres. We do manage Navarre Marsh, which is, we manage Navarre Marsh under 3 leases with First Energy, Energy Harbor. That's the area around Davis-Besse Nuclear Power Plant. We have Darby Marsh, which is just up west of Port Clinton. Of course, Cedar Point is on the eastern side of Maumee Bay in Lucas County, and West Sister Island National Wildlife Refuge in Wilderness Area. It is Ohio's only wilderness area. It's located about 9.5 miles offshore. And we do manage a waterfowl production area in Lenawee County, Michigan. It's about 90 acres. So this is just a map kind of showing everyone Navarre Marsh. This is Davis-Besse Nuclear Power Plant. Here's pool 1, pool 2, and pool 3. And the blue area just outlines what we manage in partnership with First Energy, or I should say Energy Harbor. We are planning a big project here to reconnect this 650 acres of pool 1 pool 2 and pool 3 to the Toussaint River to restore the water quality benefits as well as the fish habitat of those 2 marshes. West Sister Island National Wildlife Refuge. It was declared a refuge in 1938. It's an 82-acre island. There are 77 acres that is part of the refuge, and 5 is managed by the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard does have administrative authority over the lighthouse. And as I indicated, it was designated as a wilderness area in 1975. There's a large population of colonial nesting waterbirds on the island. This is a nesting black-crowned night heron chick. We have great egrets that nest on the island. And this is the population. Every year we go out there and survey the bird populations, do a census of the island. And these are pairs, breeding pairs. So there are 818 breeding pairs of great blue herons in 2021, 712 great egret pairs, 244 black-crowned night herons. There are also snowy egrets as well as cattle egrets, but their numbers are so low it's really hard to detect them. So, but double-crested cormorants, there was 1,676 pairs in 2021. This is kind of an aerial picture of the island. I wanted to point out there is a nice sand spit on the kind of the southwest corner of the island. The lighthouse is up here. A lot of this dead that you see here is all damage due to the cormorants. We do have a cormorant management plan. We do go out and call cormorants off of the island to try to maintain a healthy population level of cormorants, to protect the trees, to protect the nesting habitats for the colonial waterbirds. This little area right here, it's a kind of a little early successional area. You can see the trees are not quite as tall. That's where the black-crowned night herons are nest. We do have an eagle's nest as well over here towards the sand spit. And there are also herring gulls that nest around the island. So one of the black-crowned night herons, we work a lot with Ohio State on doing various research projects, and Ohio State put a satellite transmitter on a black-crowned night heron. This is an adult black-crowned night heron. And that bird flew from the Lake Erie marshes all the way to Cuba. So this shows you that our birds are definitely international birds, and that's why the International Migratory Bird Treaty Act is so important to the protection of migratory birds, is because these birds don't belong to us. They belong to an international consortium of partners that need to protect habitats both on their wintering grounds and their breeding areas. Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge, it was established in 1961. The majority of the refuge was purchased actually with federal duck stamp money. And those of you that are familiar with the duck stamp program, waterfowl hunters are required to purchase a duck stamp to hunt waterfowl. That price for that duck stamp now is $25. Those funds go into a pot that is administered by the agency, and 98% of those funds are actually given out in the form of conservation programs, and so including acquisition. So almost 5,800 acres of Ottawa was purchased essentially by duck hunters. We do have some land that was purchased through a Land and Water Conservation Fund. That's 829 acres. Those are funds that are established through oil and gas leases, offshore oil and gas leases, and other mining and things that occur on public land. Those funds all go into a pot. Those of you that might be familiar with the Great American Outdoor Act that was signed in August of 2020 by Congress, Congress took some of those land and water conservation funds, put them in this act to address the significant backlog of deferred maintenance on public lands across the country. The Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, those that are familiar with that, the effort to restore and enhance the Great Lakes, there is an land acquisition component to that, and we have been successful at getting some of those funds and have purchased 377 acres with those. And of course, people donate land to the refuge as well, and those are 509 acres. So again, here's just some pictures of our estuary, different showing the migratory birds and how they use our resources, how they use the estuary and our habitats that we manage. This is a picture of looking to the north. Here's our visitor center, our parking area, our wildlife drive that goes off here. You can see the vastness of the wetlands north of the refuge, as well as out in Lake Erie. You got McGee Marsh is up here. All of these wetlands you see in the distance here are all part of Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge. And I hope that if you haven't come out, I hope that you will come out and visit us sometime. From a management standpoint, we manage wetlands, as you know. We have 42 different wetland management units that in 92 different types of water, or 92 water control structures, 70 miles of roads and dikes. Our habitat management consists of using aerial spraying for invasive species, prescribed fire. Water management is a major habitat management tool, varying the depth, time, and duration of water changes plant communities. It provides different types of habitats for migratory birds, whether you're looking at waterfowl nesting in marshes or secretive marsh birds or wading bird habitat. This is one of our fish passage structures. Over the years, USGS has researched the connections of these structures and found that there are really just millions of fish are moving through these structures into the marsh. And marshes are critical to the fisheries in Lake Erie. Northern pike will spawn under the ice in marshes. And so reconnecting these marshes are critical to our sport fishery. The bait fish that use the marsh are actually the bait fish that walleye feed on out in Lake Erie. So there is a connection, but walleye don't spawn and obviously come into these marshes very frequently, but there is definitely a direct benefit to them. As I mentioned, fire in 2021, we were able to burn 832 acres. A lot of native grass areas. We do burn marshes periodically, particularly in the fall. Cedar Point National Wildlife Refuge. Here's an nice aerial photograph showing the vastness of this 1,500 acre contiguous coastal wetland, the largest coastal wetland in Ohio. Cedar Point was actually established in 1882 by the Cedar Point Shooting Club. President Eisenhower actually visited the club and hunted both pheasant and waterfowl. Treasury Secretary George Humphrey was actually a member of the shooting club. And so that was a connection for President Eisenhower and why he came out to hunt the marsh. So the club was originally 5,000 acres. 2,600 acres of that was actually donated to the North American Wildlife Foundation, who then turned around and donated it to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Thus, Cedar Point was established in 1964. So, as I mentioned, it does have the largest marsh in the Lake Erie Marsh region in Ohio. It is closed to the public, except we do have a fishing area that's open from May to August. That closure is primarily due to the fact that it was donated, and there is a reversionary clause in the deed against developing the property. We had to accept that when the property was donated. We do administer various wetland and bird guiding tours there. We do hunt it, so there is access. It's just limited access. This is the largest stand of wild rice that I'm aware of in Ohio. Wild rice, as you know, indigenous populations used to harvest wild rice for subsistence and for food. And so Cedar Point contains some of the largest remaining stands of wild rice. And all this kind of, really light green, those are all the seed heads of the wild rice. We do have nesting sandhill cranes, as well as black terns and various bitterns and a lot of other very secretive rare marsh bird species. So what are our visitor services program? What do our visitors do when they come to the refuge? Well, in 2021, our visitation was down a little bit. We had 352,000 visits. Our visitor center has not been open. We do plan on opening it this Thursday. And actually, we plan on phasing in that opening over the next several months so that we can get back to a full opening this spring when the birders return, so that we can start supporting our local businesses with some nature tourism. But our visitor center, we get between 33 and 35,000 visits in our visitor center each year. We have a 7.5 mile self-guided wildlife drive. In 2021, we have 53,000 visits. We have 19 miles of hiking trails. Our volunteers are critical to the work that we do. We had 14,000 hours In 2019, that has obviously been scaled back due to COVID the last few years, but we still had about half that, 7,000 hours last year alone. We do have a Bob Hines Ranger Station. It's an environmental education facility that sits just north and east of our office here. So this is our wildlife drive entrance. Our friends of Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge actually paid for these automatic gates. This is what our drive looks like in the spring. We have, at peak times, we can have 200 cars an hour going through our wildlife drive. Birders are all from all over the place. I think this person here, this is from Michigan. So a lot of people from Michigan come down to the refuge. And so we're bringing lots of folks in from out of the community into our community to enjoy this resource and hopefully support local businesses. As I mentioned, volunteers are critical to the work we do. Our front desk is staffed exclusively by volunteers. We do have RV sites so that we can encourage people to volunteer and bring their RV and come and stay with us for the summer. And we provide them free electricity, water, and septic hookups for their services to the American people by staffing our visitor center and doing other projects out on the ground. We do have a bunkhouse that sleeps 4. We use that for volunteers, college interns, so that we can mentor future conservation leaders. And our Friends Group has a internship program where they'll provide a $400 per week stipend to interns for a 13-week period, and this is where those interns stay. We do have an electric vehicle charging site, so trying to encourage people who may have electric vehicles to come out and visit us, where they can have some electricity to get back if they need to. Special events, we have lots of special events, whether it be 5K run walks. We're always doing guided bird tours and wetland tours, whether it's in our tram or our bus. The biggest week in American birding, as I mentioned, is a very critically important to local businesses. It's a wonderful special event that's hosted, administered by the Black Swamp Bird Observatory. They do a wonderful job of connecting the community to this wonderful resource, and we support them by providing opportunities for programs in our building and also doing other programs and tours and things out on the ground. We have other things like Cars for Critters, which is a car show on the refuge. We have youth activities, youth hunting, youth fishing, youth trapping, a variety of youth activities to encourage youth in the outdoors. Rob mentioned, I mentioned earlier about Rob and our partnership with the Black Swamp Conservancy and the Nels Memorial Nature Preserve. We entered into a cooperative agreement with the Black Swamp Conservancy, and they have title to the land, but we help them manage the property, opened it for public recreation, and helping them also with some habitat restoration work on the property as well. And it's just a wonderful resource right there on Catawba. So this is 163. And it's 53 going out to the islands, I guess, out to the ferries. So we also have West Harbor Landing, which is another little public access area where there's a boat launch. Both of these sites are administered by the refuge. This one, again, by the Conservancy in partnership with Ottawa Refuge. Rob mentioned the Fox Nature Preserve and the support that the Rotary has offered to build a boardwalk so we can create an AD accessible trail. This is essentially kind of the concept plan that we have for that property. It's the Fox Ginsman unit. This shows you a little aerial photograph. So here's our visitor center. This is the Fox property that was purchased by our Friends Group, actually, the 40 acres. This property here, 37, was donated to the refuge. So we kind of put them together and we'll create a 77, almost 78 acre public recreation area. And the Rotary is helping us by supporting an ADA accessible trail at this site. This is the ADA canoe kayak access at the Nels Memorial Nature Preserve. This went in this past summer and was funded by our Friends Group through some charitable donations. Partnering to restore the Great Lakes. It's one of the critical things that we do. As I indicated, with all of our water control structures, we've been successful at reconnecting over 4,000 acres of our wetlands back to Lake Erie. This picture on the right here illustrates how wetlands are really the kidneys of Mother Nature, right? This is a clean water pumping out into the estuary, and this is water flowing out of a wetland. In October, the regional director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Charlie Woolley, the director of the DNR, Mary Mertz, and myself, we did a dedication ceremony for a project that the DNR funded to reconnect one of our wetlands back to Lake Erie. All told, we were able to reconnect 952 additional acres under the H2 Ohio program back to Lake Erie hydrology, restoring fish habitat and improving water quality. And all of this is done under really the support of the MAMI AOC. Reforestation, trying to restore the Great Black Swamp. We've planted over 300 acres of trees through our restoration efforts as well. I mentioned the Friends of Ottawa. They've done a tremendous number of projects on the refuge. Their land acquisition program is all up to 69 acres has been acquired. We have received 40 of those back already, but they're still in the process of transferring the other 29 acres to the refuge. Internships, they receive charitable donations to fund our internship program so that we can get youth working on the refuge, mentoring with our staff, and building those future conservation leaders. Wildlife Drive, they funded our automatic gates. They've also funded pull-offs and other opportunities along the drive to help manage the flow of traffic and to help make that experience more better for our visitors. The Window to Wildlife was a charitable donation to create a bird viewing as well as an education room where we can bring children in and talk to them about migratory birds and do other programs. It's just a small little building, but it kind of supplements with our environmental education facility that we have as well. Our Friends group donated a bus to us. They've also in the process of donating an interpretive trailer. So this trailer here will be wrapped. It's much like a lot of the trailers that Toledo Metro Parks, which is a wonderful partner of ours as well. They use interpretive trailers to get out in the community. So we'll put a wrap on this. There's a little window. It's really a food trailer, but you kind of convert it into a mobile interpretive trailer where we can get out in the community and connect people to conservation and work with partners to really improve community and programs that we do. The Bird Friendly Facility Challenge, this is one I'm really proud of. Historically, unfortunately, birds do collide with windows. They see the reflection, they see the landscape reflected, and so we've had mortality events over the years, and it has been a significant issue. But through our Friends group and our Migratory Bird Program office, we were able to get funding this year, and we put this film on our windows. Now, you might think that you can't see anything from the inside looking out, but that's not the case. It's just a little blurry, but it doesn't affect the lighting much at all, and you can't even see this image from the inside. Over here, these windows, these are all different warbler species. We're considered the warbler capital of the world, so it just made sense for us to put warblers up all over our building. And finally, just talking about partnerships, and I'm not sure if I'm over time here, so please feel free to jump in and tell me to shut up, but partners are critical to the work that we do, whether it's Ducks Unlimited doing the engineering design for a lot of our coastal wetland large water control structure projects, the Nature Conservancy's work to help us acquire land and even supporting us with grants. The Toledo Zoo, which is just a phenomenal partner that we have, their conservation programs, they're doing Blandings turtles, they're bringing kids out and zoo teens out to help with various projects. We're really excited about a partnership with the zoo to help bring more conservation programs and stuff to urban youth, trying to help support underserved communities and connecting them to the resources that we have here. As I mentioned, Metro Parks, again, what a phenomenal Metro Park system that we have here in Northwest Ohio. They're just an incredible, vital partner as well. Black Swamp Conservancy, another wonderful partner. Friends of Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge, the DNR, of course, Ohio Division of Wildlife, and the Ottawa County Soil and Water Conservation District. And of course, USGS with all the science that we get from them. This helps inform our management so that we're making the right decisions on the landscape. So we're always looking for new partners. And I think that's it. So I hope I didn't go over. I know I have a tendency to ramble and go on, but I'm very excited about the opportunity to talk with you today, and I look forward to some discussions here if you guys have any questions. I hope you're still out there and I haven't been talking to myself.
No, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm going to move back here. Does anybody have any questions? If you think of something, obviously I shared with you my phone number, my email. Please feel free to shoot me an email afterwards. If you have an interest in a tour, we can also do those group tours and things. So please reach out. I'd welcome the opportunity to take a group of you out on the refuge and talk with you more about how we can work more closely to improve our community.
I have a question.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. My question, Jason, is regarding water quality on the lake.
Not sure if this
I
is
think
going
you've made a great presentation, but I'd like to hear what
Are there
you think
fees
your
for the
mandate is
refuge
to help clean the
or
lake.
any of the other refuges around the country?
There was a lot of sorry. I couldn't even understand your question. It sounded like there were two individual questions happening simultaneously. Could you repeat your question for me, please?
Sure.
The one on water quality and the mandates?
Yes. Can you speak to your mandate?
My mandate so the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is one of the partners on the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, the Great Lakes Restoration Act itself. So we work with the US EPA, NOAA, and a host of other partners to implement that initiative. So we're all working together to try to improve water quality in the Great Lakes. For us here at Lake, we're more focused on Lake Erie, trying to reconnect our coastal wetlands. Historically, our management paradigm has been that using dikes to isolate wetlands from hydrology so we can micromanage the water levels to mimic natural water levels or wetland conditions, and establish various types of plant communities. Well, we're shifting away from that, recognizing that the ecosystem functions and the services that these wetlands can provide to the greater system have been isolated. And so we're coming in, we're reconnecting these wetlands, we're restoring the fish habitats, the water quality benefits, but we're using these structures so we can still control the water, we can dewater if we need to, isolate them, allow plant communities to reestablish, and then also vary the timing, depth, and duration of water to help with, again, getting those different types of plant communities established, and then reconnecting those systems back at a later date. And so that's kind of our mandate and the direction that we're going long term, to trying to create functional landscapes rather than just thinking of the refuge as kind of a by itself, right? Not connected to the overall system. I hope that answers your question.
Hi. My question is about the organization structure of the government. How many layers are there between you and, I'm imagining, is it the Secretary of the Interior?
Sure, that's an excellent question. So we have a regional office that is located in Bloomington, Minnesota. And so my boss is classified as an area supervisor, and then there is a chief who is her boss of the National Wildlife Refuge system in our region. Then our regional chief reports to a regional director, right? That regional director then reports out to our headquarters office, which is in Washington, D.C., in the main interior building where the whole Department of Interior resides. And so we are a bureau underneath the department. And so there are the Bureau of Land Management, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Bureau of Rec, the National Park Service. Those are all different bureaus under the Department of Interior. So, and then at the department level, they have their own kind of organizational structure within the department itself. But so we're a bureau underneath or within the Department of Interior, and there's multiple bureaus that report to the Secretary of the Interior.
The other question is when administrations change, do you see a difference at your level in the way you work with the government?
Honestly, no, I do not. And the reason why is that our mission doesn't change regardless of the administration. As I showed you in the beginning, that's our mission. And every administration understands what that mission is. I will say that in the previous administration, we ended up opening 1.4 million acres for hunting and fishing. So that obviously the previous administration was very supportive of conservation efforts. I'm currently trying to plan another visit by the Secretary of the current administration, and their interest is very much related to the Great Lakes and the health of the system and supporting reconnecting coastal wetlands, the partnerships that we have with states, the Great American Outdoor Act, which was signed by the current administration, addressing the backlog of deferred maintenance across the Department of Interior. So in the 20 years that I've been 25 years that I've been a employee of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, every administration has always been supportive of the conservation work that this agency does. And we continue to champion on doing the work of the American people and have not had, it doesn't change.
John Wasserman would like to know, are you getting funds from the Lake Erie cleanup federal funding?
I'm not familiar with that particular, if he's talking about the infrastructure bill or what we get funds from, and they come in different forms, whether it be a partner like Ducks Unlimited or the Nature Conservancy, where they go out and apply for a grant and through the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, and those funds come to us. Usually, most of our funds for Great Lakes related projects are all coming through the initiative. So Congress allocates between 250 and 400 million annually since 2010 to restore and enhance the Great Lakes. That's Great Lakes wide, not just Lake Erie. And so there is a competitive process to try to get those resources, and leveraging partners, getting match and in-kind services from partners is a way for us to secure some of those funding sources. We are excited about the infrastructure bill and that it does contain some additional, I think about another couple $100 million for the Great Lakes. And I think there might be some opportunities for us to further enhance our public recreational opportunities and improve access for disabled individuals to various sites and amenities that we have.